I worked just shy of 40 years, but my pension still wasn't going to be enough for us. So when he called out of the blue, offering a free pension review, I was all ears. He spoke professionally about investments. He seemed a really decent guy. Just shy of 40 years pension. He took all of it.
Seriously popular.
Welcome to Alas, Vine and Hitchens, the last of the year. I'm Sarah Vine.
And I am Peter Hitchens.
And this week, Peter will be poring over the latest US national security strategy and being rather surprised by what he finds. And I'll be looking at why some people are calling for a resumption of the cancelled Lord Leveson Inquiry and blinkering the free press. We'll be back after this.
This is an ad from BetterHelp.
Am I forgetting something? Did I reply to that email? What am I doing?
Ever feel like your mind has an inbox that never stops filling?
Don't forget to reply.
Some days it's not just messages. It's pressure.
Did I say the wrong thing?
It's doubt.
Do you think they like me?
It's everything at once. Therapy with BetterHelp can give you space to unpack what's weighing on you, one message at a time. Get matched with a qualified therapist and start clearing your mental inbox today at BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/randompodcast for 10% off your first month of online therapy.
300 years of expertise in every Twinings sleep blend. 100 hours of craft in every cup. 8 natural ingredients in every sip. 1 night of winding down in every drop. Your moment of serenity. Brought to you by Twinings Sleep. Twinings. Alive in every drop.
This podcast is sponsored by G-Tech. Now, whilst we here at Alas, Vine and Hitchens may not seem like the most tech-savvy bunch, we are a podcast that has found its way into your ears via some pretty impressive inventions, so we would literally be nowhere without it. Thank goodness then for people like Nick Gray, the founder of G-Tech, who first built a cordless sweeper in his garage back in 2001 and is still going strong today, with a similar ethos to our own. Make life easier with things people love to use, which is why they are the UK's most trusted home and garden brand. So, whether it's an air ram vacuum, a nifty garden tool, or just something that gets rid of all those pet hairs on your sofa, G-Tech have got you covered. Plus, if you are like us and care about the planet, you will love all their interchangeable components and batteries. G-Tech stands for innovation, simplicity, and engineered perfection. Find out more at gtech.co.uk. Welcome to Alas, Vine and Hitchens. Again, the last of the year, sadly. This week, before we go, I was struck by the fact that Madeleine McGann's father is calling for greater scrutiny of the UK's media. He and his wife, Kate, are among more than 30 people who have signed a letter to the Prime Minister, calling on him to reverse the decision by the previous Conservative government in 2018 not to hold the second phase of the Leveson Inquiry. And the thing is about this is I understand that he may have had a tough time, and he probably did have far too tough a time. I actually do think the way that the McGanns were treated was quite shoddy. But in this climate of the internet, the newspapers, the mainstream media, we're basically the last bastion of regulated media, aren't we, Peter?
Well, there's been a gradual growth in semi-compulsory, semi-voluntary regulation.
Yeah.
And when I started in Fleet Street in 1997, there was a thing called the Press Council, and my then newspaper, the Daily Express, refused to have anything to do with it. Mm. They still found against me, though. I remember the first time I was.
What had you done?
I'd obtained documents through a subterfuge, which I thought was my job, but apparently it wasn't, and I was condemned for that.
But the thing is, I can see that people think that the press overreaches itself, but the truth is that, for example, let's take the Stephen Lawrence thing. Without the Daily Mail, the people who killed Stephen Lawrence would not have been held to account, quite simply. You know, that's just how it is. And, you know, sometimes the press get things wrong, but for the most part, you know, we are incredibly useful to the general public in exposing post office scandals. I mean, the list is endless. But more importantly, we are very tightly regulated. I mean, you and I both write columns, and we both know that when we write stuff, we have to be very careful about what we say. We have to make sure that everything is correct. We have to check our facts. We can't, there's all sorts of rules and regulations, which we all follow. I mean, occasionally, yes, mistakes are made. But in a world where basically any Tom, Dick or Harry can go on the internet and say, Peter Hitchens is an alien from Mars.
Well, they can't just say that. They can claim that I'm taking money from the Kremlin.
Yes, exactly.
They can say it, which is a fantastically defamatory
exactly.
statement, which if anyone made it about me in a newspaper would make me a rich man.
Exactly. So if I wrote that about you, quite. So I don't understand why these people want to, in a way, diminish an industry that does actually do a lot of good when they're completely ignoring everything else. And why don't they go after Elon Musk with X, which is totally unregulated? Why don't they go after Instagram?
Elon Musk, because they'd lose, because he's so...
Well, exactly.
He's so financially powerful. But the reason for an awful lot of political support for this, which comes from the left, is that newspapers are one of the last really serious pressure points in our constitution coming from what you might loosely call the right. And they would much rather that
we didn't exist.
So that's why. I mean, when I took up newspaper journalism, I did not think I was joining the Sisters of Mercy. I realized that it was a pretty raw occupation in which you sometimes were going to upset people. And in many cases, this would be for a good reason. Sometimes it wouldn't be, but I think you have to really take the one with the other. If you're going to have a free press, it must be pretty raucous.
Yeah.
Samuel Johnson described our job as scribbling on the backs of advertisements. What is it now? 250 years ago, and I think it remains true. We mustn't take ourselves too seriously.
Well, I don't think we do.
But on the other hand, if you want an independent press, it has to be commercially successful. If it wants to be commercially successful, it has to be part show business and part information.
Correct.
And a number of other things as well. And it will inevitably have that raw edge, which sometimes upsets people. The problem is that regulation has gone far too far. And for instance, I now have it in my Who entry because I'm proud of it. But I made a passing remark, which I still believe to be opinion, about the effectiveness of face masks during the COVID panic, which the Independent Press Standards Organization adjudged to be a breach of its code.
What?
Oh, it's a long story. I mean, what we argued was that they were trying to regulate opinion, which I still think they were. They said it was in some way factually misleading, which I don't accept that it was. But the truth is that the borders, which you would like to be clear on these, are not as clear as they should be, and as a result, our lives are more constrained. It's a pity. On the other hand, it would be true to say that some newspapers have, from time to time, behaved so badly that they've brought this upon themselves. And when you hear Jerry McCann on the radio, as I did this morning, you feel an immense sympathy with him.
I agree.
As who could not? I mean, ultimately,
but
the real thing about the McCanns is they lost
their
tiny child, which is unbearable, and that nothing can conceivably speak to their grief and rage about that. There's nothing you can say, and therefore he can speak as powerfully as he likes, and nobody can really contradict him.
No, I agree. I think he absolutely has a right to say what he has to say, but I also do think that, given, as you've just explained, his situation is a particularly emotional one, I don't think these decisions should be based on individual cases such as his, which is what he's effectively trying to achieve.
No, nor should they. And this is the job. I actually thought that the government response given afterwards was surprisingly articulate and thoughtful, and it contained an understanding, which anybody in politics ought to have, that you need to have an independent press for a healthy democracy. And you can't expect Jerry McCann to think all that much of that argument, given what he's been through.
No, quite. But I mean, also, you spent a lot of time in despotic places, Mordor. I mean, all of them, the one thing they all have in common is that there is no free press. Well,
my favourite of these was Kazakhstan, where newspapers were set up and attempted to be independent, and their offices burnt down, and a dead dog was hanged outside it with a note attached to it saying, "Next time we won't be so careful."
A dead dog?
A dead dog, yeah.
Great. God, okay.
And
Well,
so that's what happens to the free press in Kazakhstan, a country which I have to say is totally immune from criticism by all the Western countries that go on about how terrible Russia is. They pay no attention to it at all. There's lots of nice business to be done there.
I don't think your average Brit knows where Kazakhstan is.
I do, however, and also so did Prince Andrew, as I still call him.
Yes, quite.
Frequent visitor there. I ran across his tracks there.
Yes.
He has friends there. I'm not sorry what Kazakhstan is. There's no actual British people there who quite like it.
But yeah,
it's a fascinating place. It has wonderful trains.
Of course. Do tell us about the trains in Kazakhstan.
Well, they bought them from Spain. They have wonderful high speed. It's like an ocean of land. I think it's quite. There's an area in Game of Thrones where the wild tribes live, which is described quite well, and it's quite similar to that.
And that's basically what it is.
Vast grasslands spreading out immense distances.
What does everyone do there?
Well, I never quite found out. But they have built a capital city considerably weirder than anything in North Korea. I can say that. It used to be called Astana, which means capital, which, as the Kazakhstanis remarked, was like calling your dog. I think it may now be called Nazarbayev after the boss. I'm not sure. It's a very funny place if you don't have to live there.
Would you recommend it for a holiday?
I would hugely recommend it if you have a really good, plugged-in, strong 240-volt sense of humour.
Okay, good, right.
And a lot of money as well. It doesn't come cheap. A weekend in Astana, it is not cheap.
Well, you would know, Peter.
I would. I do.
Anyway.
And we were trying to keep costs down, I have to tell you.
I suppose I felt kind of aggrieved this morning when I heard that news, because I just think that I look around at the nonsense that is put around on the internet, and I think more and more mainstream newspapers are just the last bastion of anything sensible or responsible. I mean, I suppose that's saying a lot. It's a bit like saying, oh, Donald Trump now makes a lot of sense. But that's the mad world that we live in. So I think we should exercise caution in this area.
Well, I think people who are in a position to impose more rules on newspapers, like the present government, they should exercise caution, because they would be doing long-term damage to something which, however much they dislike it, is actually a safeguard.
Yeah.
The wonderful book going back to where the rows on the state of the press and the Labour Party's dislike of Fleet Street go back a long way. There's a very good book on this back in the 1940s called Dangerous Estate by Francis Williams, which is well worth reading. It's an old battle, and it's one of the reasons why the BBC has tended to be left, because I think the Labour Party has wanted to encourage a left-wing BBC as a counterweight to what used to be the absolutely an astoundingly powerful force of conservative Fleet Street. Nothing like as it was.
Why do you think that the press has always been traditionally sort of conservative, small c?
Well, because it's been privately owned, and often privately owned by people who've become extremely rich by being successful. And the great success of the original Daily Mail is astonishing business triumph of discovering what people like to read and providing for them at a price they could afford, and attracting advertising, and therefore becoming both popular and powerful at the same time. And such an organisation is not likely to be in favour of nationalisation and high taxes, is it?
No.
Nor should it be.
No, correct.
It's a very useful thing to have. A lot of countries have never really had anything like the sort of independent press that we have. And the Paris press before the Second World War was renowned for being viable. Any newspaper could be bought by a political party. That wasn't the case here.
No.
The real independence.
I mean, the Italian press is the same. I mean, it's just all...
Also, the Italian press, Mussolini gave journalists tax breaks, which I believe they still have.
Well, I don't know, actually.
Well, they wouldn't talk about it much. It'd be a hard thing to repeal once you say, right, we're going to repeal the tax breaks for journalists. That would be a good political move, wouldn't it?
But
Any society with
to be
newspapers.
fair, it's only quite recently that anyone has started paying tax in Italy.
Well, I know that's another thing.
Until about 10 years ago. It was considered really quite eccentric.
Somebody must have.
Well, I don't know. Anyway, after the break, we'll be talking about other mad things, the US national security strategy. Do join us.
This is an ad from BetterHelp. Am I forgetting something?
Did I reply to that email?
What am I doing? Ever feel like your mind has an inbox that never stops filling? Don't forget to reply. Some days it's not just messages. It's pressure.
Did I say the wrong thing?
It's doubt.
Do you think they like me?
It's everything at once. Therapy with BetterHelp can give you space to unpack what's weighing on you, one message at a time. Get matched with a qualified therapist and start clearing your mental inbox today at BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/randompodcast for 10% off your first month of online therapy.
Ready to launch your business? Get started with a commerce platform made for entrepreneurs. Shopify is specially designed to help you start, run, and grow your business with easy customizable themes that let you build your brand, marketing tools that get your products out there, integrated shipping solutions that actually save you time, from startups to scale-ups, online, in person, and on the go. Shopify is made for entrepreneurs like you.
Sign up for your $1 a month trial at shopify.com/setup.
This is an ad from BetterHelp. Some days, it feels like you're carrying something no one else can see. Stress, grief, responsibility. The kind of heaviness that doesn't show up in photos but follows you everywhere. You don't have to hold it alone. With BetterHelp, you can talk to someone who helps lighten what you've been carrying for far too long. Take the weight off. Start therapy anytime from anywhere online with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/randompodcast for 10% off your first month of online therapy.
Ready to launch your business? Get started with a commerce platform made for entrepreneurs. Shopify is specially designed to help you start, run, and grow your business with easy customizable themes that let you build your brand, marketing tools that get your products out there, integrated shipping solutions that actually save you time, from startups to scale-ups, online, in person, and on the go. Shopify is made for entrepreneurs like you.
Sign up for your $1 a month trial at shopify.com/setup.
You are still listening, at least we hope you are, to Alas, Vine Hitchens. She is Sarah Vine, and I am Peter Hitchens. And I think you ought to realize that the new United States national security strategy, of which you might have heard a few uncomplimentary things in recent days, is more sensible than you might imagine. It's sandwiched between two slices of tripe about the wonders of Trumpism. And these are the bits which I think President Trump may have read. He certainly signed one of them. And they're blithering drivel all about how wonderful America is in the Trump age and how they're going to sort out the American economy, which I don't believe they are. But on foreign policy, there is a passage which I found quite convincing and appeared to have been written by an intelligent and literate person. After the end of the Cold War, it runs, American foreign policy elites convinced themselves that permanent American domination of the entire world was in the best interests of our country. Yet, the affairs of other countries are our concern only if their activities directly threaten our interests. Now, oddly enough, that is more or less the policy which British foreign secretaries and prime ministers had through much of the 19th century. We didn't have eternal friends. We had eternal interests. We pursued those interests. We didn't interfere in the internal affairs of other countries because we didn't like their politics. That wasn't what we were truly concerned about. Now, these days, we pretend to be concerned about the internal affairs of other countries. We get very worked up about the internal affairs of Russia and its persecution of political dissidents, which is, of course, an appalling thing, particularly if you're there. But even if you're not, looking on it isn't pleasant. But at the same time, we say absolutely nothing at all about the growth of what is an extremely ugly dictatorship in Turkey, where democracy has been strangled over the past 10, 15 years by Erdogan, and we don't say anything about it because he is a NATO member and because we need him to try and keep down the levels of migration from the Middle East and for various other reasons. And although he has more journalists locked up than Putin does, you never hear of it here or any of the ghastly show trials. The leader of the opposition, the man who is effectively the equivalent to the leader of the Labour Party in Ankara, is in prison the last time I looked. And what does the British Labour Party say about its brother Social Democrat? Nothing. And so that's an example of how we don't really care about the internal affairs of other countries. We had a great frenzy about Syria. And about how the Assad regime was appalling. Well, now they have a new regime which is presiding over ethnic and religious massacres and is run by an al-Qaeda veteran. We don't care. We are on very good terms with Egypt, whose ruler maintained his position by machine gunning his people in the streets of Cairo. So it's true that we don't care, but we say that we don't care. And what you'll find liberal opinion in this country gets into such a taking about is that this document actually says openly what is true about the foreign policy of any major power. What people really care about is preserving their own interests and safeguarding those interests, and they will make all kinds of compromises to do so. The section on China is also very interesting and seems to me to suggest, though I think is very deeply buried, that they would be prepared in Washington to accept an end to Taiwanese nominal independence if the Taiwanese were the ones who agreed to it. But they're not going to let the Chinese squash Taiwan. But I don't think the Peking regime has any intention of doing that anyway. I think their major work has always been on internal Taiwan politics to try and get a government in Taipei which will apply for re-entry to the People's Republic.
Right.
But those are examples of it. But it's a lot of it is you can tell by the way it's written where it's also lumpy and Trumpy. You can tell that it's no importance. But other parts of it are written in a literate, educated fashion, and they're serious.
And what about the stuff on Europe, which is the stuff that has been so incendiary?
Well, it is anything that it says that we don't think has some merit. I mean, the European governments have been feeble and worse on mass migration. And the behaviour of Angela Merkel, simply saying anybody can come in, it remains a disaster. The handling of the migration issue by almost any major European government is at best clumsy and at worst disastrous. And what have these countries done with their cultures? These were great exemplars of 100-odd years ago, were still great exemplars of Christian civilization and law and open societies. Now what are they? They're not very impressive. The problem with that part of the document is, of course, almost everything that is said about Europe could also be said about the United States. It's not. They're in no position to preach to Europe about mass migration or cultural.
But of course, Trump has only
decline.
been president for a short period of time. But what I think is interesting about it is it shows that he is looking. I mean, what I think they're trying to say with this document is that Europe can't just take America for granted.
Well, nor can they, nor should they.
But also that he is pivoting towards other parts of the world. You know, he's not closed to doing deals with China or Russia and other places.
Well, why should he be?
Well, but the assumption has always been that America and Europe are basically one and the same, and they're aligned.
It's a sentimental assumption.
Well,
it's not accurate.
Well, exactly, and I think this is. So that's why I think this is such an interesting document, because it's stating that effectively.
Wonderful section heading, section 3. What are America's available means to get what we want? Question mark. I mean, you seldom see such frankness in foreign policy documents.
No, so it's effectively saying, look, guys, you know, we like you, but you know, we're not going to just put up with all your rubbish.
We have, it accepts there are sentimental connections, but they're not just going to carry on bailing us out and all our problems simply because Trump likes England and his mother likes Scotland, or even because there are a lot of Irish Americans. Ultimately it's America first, and people have to understand this is a hugely important movement in the United States. America first is not just a slogan; it's an idea going back a very long time, which was eclipsed during the Second World War and for some time afterwards, but is now coming back into vogue.
But it's interesting also that it's a sort of slight replaying of that sort of original American psychosis of basically being a new country, of turning its back on the old country. I mean, I remember when I went just before the Brexit vote in 2016, I was in New York and I went to see the stage play Hamilton. Have you been to see it?
No, I refused.
Why did you refuse?
Because it was so fashionable.
Okay. Well, it's not fashionable anymore, so you probably could go.
No, it's not fashionable. Everybody's begun to admit it's not very good.
We could go as a Christmas outing. But it was quite interesting because that, of course, is all about it's all about America turning its back on the UK, on Britain, and forging its own.
Well, that's the point that's why America exists, because people turn their back on Britain. I mean, when I went to work there, and I thought possibly to live there, I've never felt so cut off from the European continent as the day when the moving van arrived with the container which had our entire life in it, which had been brought from Oxford across the Atlantic, and we unpacked it. And there it was. There it was in our house in Bethesda, in Maryland. We were now living in America, and it was so far away, and another world. And I felt that point more than I'd ever realized before, just what a distance it was. We also we went as a family across the Atlantic in a Cunarder because I thought that the children ought to know to
feel the distance,
far it was, and because it is immense, and you don't until you've done it by sea.
And also, they don't have any trains yet, do they?
They do, actually. They have actually not a bad train.
You can't get across the Atlantic by train, sadly.
You can't know. I've told you about the proposal for the Paris to New York railway line, haven't I?
No, you haven't.
This is one of the casualties of the First World War. In the Tsarist days in Russia, it was a plan that they would tunnel under the Bering Strait and you'd be able to get on a train in Paris they would feed you and give you staterooms and comfy beds. And if you were prepared to put up with it, you could ride by train all the way from Paris to New York without ever...
What a happy dream.
Oh, it's one of the two things I really wish had happened or could still happen. The Paris to New York Express and the Moscow to Jerusalem Express is my other unfulfillable dream.
Yeah.
It'd be such a journey through the Caucasus.
Yes.
Imagine.
So
beautiful. And what a change from one destination to the other.
Yes, but you'd be underwater for the one.
Moscow to Jerusalem?
No, Paris to New York.
No, only the Bering Strait, which is quite short.
Oh, okay.
I've crossed the Bering Strait backwards, as I've told you.
How short is it?
Well, it took about 45 minutes by plane.
Okay, so is it? But I mean, sort of compared to the Channel.
A bit longer. I wanted to walk across it because it freezes, and I tried to get permission to walk across the ice, but they wouldn't let me because it had too much secret equipment there.
You are a nuisance, aren't you?
Yes. It's my job.
Terrible nuisance.
I get just one other small extract from this, because it's one that really annoys Guardian people.
Good.
The United States rejects the ill-fated concept of global domination for itself. We must prevent the global and in some cases even regional domination of others. This does not mean wasting blood and treasure to curtail the influence of all the world's great and middle powers. And this is an important realization that it's a utopian idea that you can control the whole world.
Yeah, of course.
You can let people know there are limits. And there's a lot about the Monroe Doctrine, which basically means keep out of our backyard, which I try to explain to people that the Russians, when they object to people moving up to their borders with hostile military alliances, are only doing exactly what the Americans do under the same circumstances. And indeed, the whole of English history up until the Union of Crowns was basically us trying to keep the French out of Scotland. So and Ireland too. And I really don't think that we should be so surprised if other countries behave in the same way.
No, I agree. I was surprised when I looked at it too. I just think the stuff with Europe is very interesting.
It is, but a lot of it is actually quite unselfconscious. It would apply to the States.
It's caused a lot of pearl clutching among sort of BBC classes because they idolise the European Union. I don't really know why. It's a mystery to me why they do.
Because it's supranational and they don't like patriotism. Because it's social democratic and they are social democrats.
But it's really ineffective.
Because it's secular. They love all those things about it.
But it's like the BBC.
The BBC and the EU are very similar.
The BBC is a microcosm of Brussels. I mean, they're basically run along the same lines in the same way by the same people, and it's sort of a self-generating entity that creates an enormous amount of work for other people to do, so it can continue to exist. And it's just a pointless waste of time.
They recognise each other in each other. Dinosaur calling to dinosaur across the primeval swamp.
Yes, I suppose Trump is in that respect the great meteor.
Possibly. That's probably what he thinks.
The great orange meteor. Should we do some questions?
Yes.
By the way, if you have thoughts on this, do let us know. You can email us at alas@dailymail.co.uk. Dear Sarah and Peter, thank you for the recommendation of Leonardo Padura's book, which is now marked as a Christmas present for my father. We both know Cuba quite well due to many fishing expeditions to Las Islas de la Reina, one of the most beautiful places on earth.
Really?
There are too many tales to tell, from shocking poverty and police involvement with prostitution to a more positive note of the increase in middle classes with better cars and mobile phones carried on belt clips and lovely restaurants. To anyone thinking of visiting, I would strongly suggest leaving Havana for the smaller towns and villages. There you will find the most honourable, decent and friendly people. And in Havana, in the nightclubs and bars, the Havana club you think is your mojito is likely moonshine, so order your own bottle. Gosh, how I long to go back. Yours, Marcus. P.S. Peter, the National is also my father's favourite. He likes to sit on the terrace with a drink and a cigar, listening to Yolanda by Pablo Milanés.
Well, I'm so pleased.
I think we should play that.
I would just always add that whenever anybody's thinking of going to Cuba, I say, do not go as a tourist. Go as a visitor. Take in what you see. Remember all the time that it is a horrible secret police state in which people have no privacy. Indeed, many of the people are lovely, but it never ever forget that the government is a hellish, oppressive government. And despite all the beauties of the place and the pleasantness to people.
I think you should read the next one.
I'm not sure I can.
Yes, you
but
can.
It's from Ashby Crowder from Baltimore, Maryland. and my greetings to my former state. So what Ashby says is, dear Sarah and Peter, having heard Peter incorrectly call the hogs twice now on this program, I must intervene. Now, I may get this wrong now, but I will do my best. I'm afraid, says Ashby, it is not sui, rather the correct call, and this, by the way, is for the Arkansas Razorbacks football team, if you are a fan. Woo, pig, sui, woo, pig, sui, woo, pig, sui, Razorbacks.
Yay!
Okay, well
Well
all
done,
I can
Peter.
say is that I got my information from the Washington Post, and that may be the reason. And if they were wrong, then I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, it's their fault. He says he's going to be in Lancaster in early April. If it happens, I will be there too. It would be a pleasure to bring me a plastic Razorback hog hat from his native Arkansas. That's why he knows.
Arkansas.
No, Arkansas.
It says Arkansas.
It's Arkansas. It's how
Is
it's
it-
pronounced.
is it? Oh,
It's just a
God.
French pronunciation.
Is it?
The river, there's a river called the Arkansas River, but the state is called
Well, I'm a
Arkansas.
foreigner.
And
I
if you-
don't know about these things.
Remember, the capital of Arkansas is Little Rock, which is actually
I didn't know it was called
translation of Petit Rocher. It had a lot of French population.
So it's
in it, so-
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
I don't know, you know something. You
I
learn
promise
something
you,
every day.
that's what it is. Good. And yes, let's do that if we possibly can. Ashby, you'll have to give
Can I
me
have one too, please?
greater details. Sarah says she would like a Razorback hog hat as well. Are they all red, or are there any variations? Are the girls'
I
versions
don't know.
in
I
pink?
can have one. I can wear it instead of my scarf.
Well, look. Anyway, we're keen to meet up on this. I want one of those hats. So I think it may be your turn now.
No, the next one's for you as
Oh,
well.
next one. This is from Jonathan
No, they're making you work this time.
Dugdale. Huh. He says he's read several of my books as well as my newspaper columns for many years. One name keeps cropping up and seems to be very influential in the Cultural Revolution. Roy Jenkins. Who was he? And how much of an impact has he had on Britain? Well, who he was, interestingly enough, he was the daughter of a miners' union official in Wales.
The sun, surely.
The son, I'm so sorry. That would have been more interesting. Why did I say daughter? Anyway, never mind. Shall I say that again? I think I'd better. It only confuses things. Who Roy Jenkins was is very interesting.
Royetta.
He was... Who Roy Jenkins was is very interesting. He was the son of an official of the mining union in Wales who was actually thrown into prison, I think, during the general strike, though you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell from Roy's accent and demeanour, which always was pretty orotund, I think is the word. He spoke pretty upper-middle-class Oxford English to those who weren't looking, and also had a great taste for aristocratic women. I won't go into any more detail.
Which ones?
Well, I think it's unfair on them, really.
Are they alive?
Well, I can just tell you that this is so, and he did, and there's no real argument about it, and he loved a good claret, but he was also a profoundly radical liberal reformer who very, very early on, long before political correctness was invented, wanted to transform the country. And he wrote a book called The Labour Case, I think in 1959 originally, in which he set out a number of things he wanted to do, which would change the laws on hanging and on homosexuality and on marriage, I think. I'm doing this from memory, but what basically happened was that when Labour won the election in 1964 with a majority of 4, it's quickly down to 3, he did not attempt to put these things through as government bills, but he did what the government appears to be doing with the assisted dying bill now. This is to say, he gave enormous unofficial support to private members' bills on these subjects through the whip's office,
right,
getting them time and getting them through. And I remember all those bills passing in a kind of rat-tat-tat machine gun fire, huge social change. He was the author of what he called the civilized society and what his critics, including, I think, Jim Callaghan, his Labour rival and foe, called the permissive society. And that's what he is the father of the revolutions. He also utterly changed criminal justice, as well as getting rid of the death penalty. He made the whole system much more sociological, much more based on the idea that crime was a social disease rather than an act of selfish wrong. And everything that he did reflected that. And he also made the first really big attack on jury trial, which the government's now returning to by removing the unanimous verdict and introducing the majority verdict, which I think was catastrophic. I'm sure he was charming to meet. I was in the same room as him once and decided not to approach him because I just thought it would be boring. But I think that his effect on the country has been enormous and, in my view, baleful. That's why he comes up. If you want to know a lot about him, my first book, The Abolition of Britain, now a quarter of a century old, contains quite a lot about Roy Jenkins. There's also a good biography of him by John Campbell, but the only problem with it, Campbell wrote a very good biography of Margaret Thatcher because it was hostile but fair. The problem with biography of Jenkins is that it's friendly but fair, and so not as interesting.
Yeah.
But he's a fascinating person and probably had more influence on British life in the last 50 years than any other politician I can think of.
And I imagine quite a lot of people don't know who he is.
Well, they should.
Dear Sarah and Peter, I will be visiting London the weekend before Christmas to see a close friend who lives there. In the past, we have gone for dinner at Wagamama's. But this year, I am determined we try somewhere new. Any ideas? In a previous episode, Peter mentioned somewhere he and his wife intended to visit on his birthday before their plans were derailed by a cancelled train. Would either of you recommend a place to eat to a pair of young northerners with little sophistication? I doubt that very much, Harry, because you listen to this podcast, which means you must be a very sophisticated individual. Probably very handsome, clever.
But are you rich? That's the point. If you're coming to London, you need to be rich, and by the time you get home, you won't be.
Exactly. Wagamama's is not as cheap as you think it is. So I think probably we're talking mid-price point. And I think the place you were going to have supper with your good lady wife was Sally Clark's.
It was, yes.
So, well, Sally Clark's is a fantastic restaurant.
It is a lovely restaurant.
Absolutely. I mean, she is peerless. I think she's brilliant. But it is probably a little more expensive than Wagamama's, I'd say.
You'd
it depends
be
how
well
hard you go on
advised
the
to
wine.
check the website to find out what it'll do you for.
But also, Sally's also very nice. So if you,
she is very nice.
If you rang her up and said, "I'm coming to you instead of
Wagamama's,"
Wagamama's," she might give you a discount. I would recommend Il Portico.
Oh, I know the one you mean. Yes.
Which is one.
It's down the road from here.
It's down the road from here. It's one of the oldest Italian restaurants in London. If you like Italian food, but maybe you don't. If you like Wagamama's, I tell you where is very good. If you like Asian food, and it's quite authentic, is Eat Tokyo in Hammersmith. Which is not very glamorous and not very expensive. But
and
if you
also
like,
in Hammersmith.
But if you, there's no need to be snobby.
Well, no, not snobby. It's just if you're coming to London from the north, it's a long
well,
way
you're probably
further.
coming into. I suppose that's right. You're probably coming into Euston or King's Cross, so we should probably think of something in that part of the world. But no, I have to say, Eat Tokyo. You don't like Japanese food, though, do you?
I don't, I'm afraid. No, I wish I did, but I don't.
No, I do.
There used to be a good sort of Spanish-ish restaurant not far from King's Cross called Moro.
Oh yes, I remember that. Yes,
where the current editor of the Times.
I used to go there a lot.
Worked in the kitchen.
Oh really?
Yes, it was quite famous. He was sacked from his previous job and was then spotted working as a kitchen porter at Moro.
I used to go to Moro.
The last time I went there, it was very good, but it's been a long time. I don't live in London, you see, so I don't really do this very much.
No, so that would be fun. Moro would be fun, I agree. Yeah, those would be my recommendations. I mean, Eat Tokyo is my guilty pleasure. I sometimes sneak off there on my own during the day and have a bento box.
Oh, okay.
It's very delicious.
I used to love a place in the city called Sweetings. It's probably gone now. It's just a very basic fish.
Yeah, I know, I like fish.
And the thing that I really liked about it was that they served black velvet in silver cups.
What is black velvet?
Black velvet is champagne.
Yes.
It's a surprise.
My mother loves that.
It features in one of the Evelyn Moore novels right at the beginning. Put Out No More Flags. That sour, invigorating draft, he calls it, which is absolutely right. Haven't had it for years.
My mother.
The pudding was stewed apple and cream, which I haven't also had for years. It's a lovely English
How do you
dessert.
get the champagne and the Guinness to behave together in the glass?
It's not in glass. It's in a small silver tankard, and so maybe that makes it better,
right.
Which mists beautifully when they pour them in. But I don't know, probably by chilling them both a lot and pouring carefully. But it is delicious with fish.
My mouth is now watering.
But it probably doesn't even still exist. It's mentioned in John Buchan's Green Mantle, where one character is asked to go and get a barrel of oysters from Sweetings.
Well, anyway, Harry, those are some ideas.
So these are useless, but there you are. You did ask. But I have to say, I think when I go to restaurants, and I'm not poverty-stricken as I once was in London, I think they are fantastically expensive.
They are so expensive. There's quite a fun one, Harry, if you're interested, in Portobello Road called Gold, which is where my son works as a porter, I think. You know, one of those people who brings the food.
Waiters, I think they call them.
No, they're not called waiters. No, because he's not as high up as a waiter. A waiter is somebody who takes an order. And his job is to just be a grunt. He has to just be quiet and bring food. He's not allowed to speak. He does that during the university holidays. And the food there is absolutely delicious, I have to say. Really, really good. And it's quite a nice atmosphere.
What's it called?
It's called Gold.
G-O-L-D?
G-O-L-D, yes. And it's in Portobello Road. So that's always a fun outing. You can go and sort of, look at the shops in Portobello Road and then have dinner at Gold. I think that's all we've got time for. We'll be back in the new year, assuming we make it to the new year.
Assuming we make it.
What are you doing for Christmas?
Domestic thing.
Actually, I wanted to ask you, do you send Christmas cards?
I used to. Well, we used to. It wasn't.
No one sends them anymore.
It wasn't really me. No, it became. Have you bought stamps lately?
It's so expensive. But I had an email today from someone.
It's a deterrent.
I had an email today from someone who normally sends Christmas cards, and then they said this year we're not sending Christmas cards. We're sending an email. I said, I don't really want an email.
It's been dying for some time.
Yeah.
I think the COVID panic also dealt it another blow, as it did so many other things. It's a funny thing. So I never did the work, so I'm not the one to say.
No.
It was Mrs. Hitchens who did pretty much all the
work.
Yeah,
I sort of miss them now they're gone. I used to find them quite annoying and a bit of a fire hazard. But I find it sad. Do you remember that brilliant book which is called Seasonal Suicide Notes?
No.
By, oh my God, if you want a book recommendation for Christmas, Seasonal Suicide Notes, and it's written by a very funny colleague of ours who occasionally writes for the paper. You know those terrible letters that people write saying, hello, it's been a wonderful year for the Pinking family.
And I know
Jocasta
that
has won,
used to be a columnist in a newspaper who used to mock those. And I thought, well, all right, that's all very well. But since what people are doing is trying to keep in touch.
No, I never.
I didn't feel. I thought it was a bit unkind to sort of genuine.
But that's not really what they're trying to do, Peter. They're trying to show off. That's what they're really doing.
That's helps them get through it. Otherwise, it's just going to be a dreary. No, Barnaby failed his GCSEs. It's not going to make it in, is it?
Yes, the cat died. Sorry, your cat did die. I apologise.
Well, she did, but I don't think. I mean,
and very insensitive
and
bad. But no, Roger Lewis, Seasonal Suicide Notes. It's a very funny book to get to people.
He's a very funny writer.
Yeah, he's a very funny writer. Yeah, he's Welsh, of course.
It's not axiomatic
in that, but he's that sort of brilliantly sort of comedic, gloomy Welshman. Which
didn't he nearly die in a car park?
He nearly died in a car park. Yes. One shouldn't laugh, but it just was quite funny.
He laughed.
He wrote very entertainingly about him nearly dying in a car park. Yeah. Anyway, on that note, I hope you all have a lovely Christmas, New Year, festive season. I should be going to see my mother, who is turning. I'm not allowed to say how old she is. I should be cross about that. Anyway, she's having a birthday.
I think we can say your mother is even older than I am.
Well, only a bit.
Anyway, very joyous and blessed Christmas to all our listeners.
Exactly. If you would like to email us in the interim, please do alas@dailymail.co.uk. Thank you for listening to us in this year that what has been. We'll be back, hopefully, if we don't get cancelled. And you never know. Anything could happen. You could leave a comment on Spotify or WhatsApp us 07796 657 512. Start your message with the word alas, and I should assure you that Peter reads all of your WhatsApps.
"300 years of expertise in every twining sleep blend. 100 hours of craft in every cup. 8 natural ingredients in every sip. 1 night of winding down in every drop. Your moment of serenity. Brought to you by Twinings Sleep. Twinings. Alive in every drop.